Ginormous Joe's Annoying Friend. Written and read by S C Cunningham. Once upon a time, a white, huggable dog called Joe lived with the Tuttle family. Mr. and Mrs. Tuttle and young Mary Tuttle had rescued Joe. They gave him a loving home with lots of good food, long walks, and arm-stretching cuddles. Joe and Mary were very best friends. They did everything together. On rainy days, they would cuddle up on the sofa, eat treats, and watch movies. Super action heroes was Joe's favourite. And when Mary did her homework, Joe would lay snoring at her feet. The family loved going for walks, stopping to talk to neighbours along the way. People liked to stop and say hello to Joe. He was so big and huggable. On every walk there would be an embarrassing, smelly moment when one of the Tuttles would pick up Joe's smelly poo in a plastic bag and put it in the rubbish bin. Joe didn't understand this at all. It would take him ages to find the exact piece of grass to place his poo on, and then the Tuttles would pick it up. Why? He would mumble to himself. What do they do with all that poo? It's very strange. Mary would giggle at his scrunched-up nose. It's important to keep the streets clean for everyone, Joe. You don't want people slipping on your big smelly poo and hurting themselves, do you? Joe wondered if he could learn to poo in the Tuttles' bathroom. At least there he would shut the door and poo in peace. Joe loved his peaceful life with the Tuttles, apart from their stealing poo habit. But all that changed the day Mo arrived. Mrs. Tuttle had a sister who was going to the seaside for a week's holiday. She had a big white fluffy dog called Mo. Mrs. Tuttle offered to look after Mo. She'll be great company for our Joe, Mrs. Tuttle said enthusiastically. Mary was not so sure. Joe had gotten used to being master of his house. Another dog may upset his routine. Mary was right. Joe hated having a guest. From the moment Mo arrived, he was counting down the days for her to leave. He found it very difficult to be polite to somebody he didn't like. He wouldn't mind if Mo was a nice dog, but she was aggressive, loud, and bossy, a big show-off who wanted all the attention. And she obviously didn't like him, and she never spoke to him. How rude, Joe mumbled. The minute Mo arrived, she ran all over the house and garden, taking charge. Joe was pushed and bumped out of arm's reach whenever it came to food, play, or cuddle time. Feeling left out, he would sneak off into a corner in a grump, counting down the days for her to leave. Try as he might to keep away from her, Mo followed him everywhere. Each time he took a nap, he would wake up and find Mo lying nearby watching him. If he had a pee in the garden, she would follow and pee on top of his carefully chosen spot. What is her problem? He mumbled, looking back over his shoulder. When the Tuttles took them for walks, Mo would charge past Joe to always be in front. He found it very annoying. Mary told him, Joe, be polite. Mo is our guest. He would drag along behind with his head down in a grump, counting down the days for her to leave. He would hide in a corner, watching her with one eye open, pretending he didn't care about all the attention she was getting. The Tuttles were his family. He didn't want to share them. Mary understood. Don't worry, Joe. Mo is only here for a short while. Soon we'll be back to normal, and you are still my most favourite dog ever. Joe sighed, nuzzled his nose under her arm and gave her a big, soft hug. He loved Mary. She always said the right thing to make him feel better. Mo saw that Joe was being cuddled and scooted across the room. It was a move to push him out of the way. Oh, for goodness sake, Joe huffed and waddled off to find a quiet corner. He decided on a plan. He would sleep as much as possible until it was time for Mo to leave. Finding a cosy place to nap, he flopped to the floor and closed his eyes. Very soon he was snoring. He snored so loudly he woke himself up with a start. He opened his eyes, scratched his ear, and looked up to find Mo staring at him. He got up and moved to another quiet spot and fell asleep. His loud snore woke him up again. He looked up. Mo was staring at him. "What is she doing?" he mumbled. He moved again, and again. The same thing happened. He would wake up to see Mo staring at him. "Well, if she wants to waste time staring at me, let her. I don't care." He plonked his head down and went back to sleep. One morning, after Mo and Joe had been fed, Mo wanted her bowl of food as well as Joe's. Joe had to gobble down his breakfast so quickly it gave him a tummy ache. Mary took the dogs for a walk. As usual, Mo charged out ahead. Joe dragged behind, counting down the days for her to leave. A friend of Joe's, a poodle called Brian, walked past them on the pathway. Brian called out to Joe as he passed, "Nice girlfriend, Joe," and smiled, looking at Mo. Joe stood still with shock. He quickly barked back at him. "She's not my girlfriend," he shouted, for everyone to hear. "Don't be silly, Brian." Mo turned and stared at Joe, her eyes wide with dismay. "Well, you're not," he grumbled, wondering why she looked so upset. They stood on the path staring at each other. Tears began to well in Mo's eyes. Joe didn't understand. He suddenly felt bad for being so rude. "What's up with you two?" asked Mary, pulling on their leads to keep them walking, but they stood still, staring at each other. Joe's heart crumbled. Mo looked so sad. He hadn't meant to hurt her. Maybe he was a bit harsh. Mo tilted her head and looked at Joe with tears in her eyes. She couldn't wait any longer. She had to tell him how she felt. She secretly liked him very much, but had been too shy to tell him. She wanted to be near him all the time, but whenever she tried to get close, he would walk away. And every time she tried to speak to him, the words wouldn't come out. Taking a deep breath, she picked up her courage and barked at the top of her voice, "I like you, Joe." Brian and Mary turned to look at her. "I like you, Joe," she repeated. "Can we be friends, please?" "But you're always so annoying. I thought you didn't like me." "I was trying to get your attention, to get you to notice me," she sighed. "I'm sorry. I went about it all the wrong way." "Why didn't you tell me?" asked Joe. "Because I'm shy, but I'm telling you now. So please, can we be friends?" Joe shook his head and smiled. The person he thought disliked him actually liked him. She wasn't rude at all, just shy. He'd rushed towards her, all thoughts of her being a nuisance gone from his mind. They nuzzled noses and circled each other, smiling. Mary stood staring at them, wondering what had just happened. Whatever it was, she was pleased to see Joe so happy. Joe no longer counted the days for Mo to leave. He was sad when she did. Now he counts the days for her to return. The end. Thank you for listening to the Ginormous series by S C Cunningham.